Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. Yeah, I know it's a challenge shortly after the break, the lunch break, yeah, to listen to a talk, and hopefully I'm going to manage that you will find some very interesting, hopefully interesting aspects of our vision, of the vision of the team and me, how to explore new ways of publishing or communication in science, in research. And during the lunch break, we had a very interesting discussion with the speaker of this morning from the European Commission, which I first met last year in November during a workshop in London. And it's very obvious that we have in Europe an excellent infrastructure. We do not need more infrastructure, but we need the vision where we want to go. And in particular, for those who are working in science and research, I think it's very obvious to us, as we said in the introduction, I'm a physicist myself, we are very clear about the need for a change in the way how to publish, how to communicate research. And let's see if we will find a way where we can move forward. First of all, I want to start with a slide. This was my experience 20 years ago when I was a student and when I wanted to access any literature, any research literature. So a long time ago, or 20 years are not so long, but anyway, and within the last decade, many things changed quickly. And so meanwhile, we are talking about open access, science 2.0, crowdsourcing, altmetrics, repositories, and many other aspects of social networks or networks in general. And the idea is, how can we combine these ideas, these concepts, which are on the table, with that what we have experienced in communication of publishing and science. Let's see, when we are talking about the market of scientists or science, we are talking about more than 20 million active scientists, both in the STM, in the scientific, technical, medical disciplines, and in the humanities. So a lot of people working in these fields, and they are using for their publications more than 20,000 scholarly journals in STM only, and there are worldwide about 17,000 scholarly societies. And of course it's a huge market, and so it's also a commercial market, and about 2,000 commercial publishing companies worldwide are coping with all these publications. To give you a current figure, about 4 million submissions last year in STM only, and about 50% of them got published, so 1.8 million publications worldwide only in STM, so article publications in journals. That's quite a lot of stuff, and let's think about ideas. How can we use this incredible amount of knowledge to make it more accessible, and also find ways how we can, as researchers, how we can start discourse. That's what scientists should do with these material. So let's see. What are the frustrations, the current frustrations of researchers currently? You know it better than me. Too long publication cycles, no open access, too expensive subscription fees, and in particular, no transparency in the reviewing process, which is very important, or the most important quality assessment step in scholarly publishing. And finally, there's no real interaction between or among the researchers, except conferences. Last week I attended a big physics conference in Berlin with more than 5,000 participants, and a lot of people, and they were enthusiastically discussing their recent findings during the oral presentations or at the posters sessions. But then it was over after a few days, and everybody went home, and so no way to communicate in that way. So could we do better meanwhile? I think we can. And some time ago, The Economist summarized in a very nice review article the situation, how science goes wrong. So very interesting to read. What's the opportunity? Science 2.0 can fundamentally change the way how scholarly publishing works. For instance, immediate publication and worldwide open access. Why is open access so important? We all know it. There are a lot of statistics, meanwhile, that we get more citations, more visibility, and also more discourse about those articles or publications which were made open access, and so on. Moreover, we do not need, as Andreas Deckwitz said last year in the newspaper article in Tagesspiegel Berlin, he said, as the head of the Humboldt University Library, he said, there's no need for journals as containers or silos anymore in the digital age. Very interesting aspect. We need a more open and transparent peer review process, as for instance the post-publication peer review process. And we need, and I'm very keen to find out more about this in half an hour from now in the next talk, about alternative article level metrics, to find a replacement or to develop a replacement for that impact factor, which is still a measure for many of us for research, but everybody knows that it's quite not a good measure for research or for researchers. Just to give you an example here from TIERS, a new initiative or journal, open access journal, where such an alternative level metrics has been introduced on the right side. And finally, we need, as we just heard before the lunch break, we need more discourse, also public discourse, open discourse. So we need networks, we need interaction via networks or social networks, whatever. So here we see a recent blog of me. So that's also a way to communicate in research. And why do we? We should make more. Seek for more options like this to use short statements rather than lengthy articles to post our opinions about some aspects in research or about open access. Anyway, sounds strange, you may feel, but is it really utopia or not? In fact, it's not. Here I have listed only a few initiatives which started within the last decade, most of them in the last few years, which tried at least to cope with some of these aspects I just summarized on the last slide. And finally, as said in the introduction, we started ourselves also an initiative which tries to cope with most of these aspects. That's Science Open, and I will give you a very short summary of that, what we did, in a minute. So, what's the basic idea of Science Open? Open science, of course, and we want to use the power of a professional network to openly aggregate, publish, exchange, collaborate, communicate, and discuss and evaluate scientific results. So that's a network idea, but not only focus to a dialogue, but also to all aspects we know from classical or traditional publishing in the last decades. How does it look? Oh, very greenish. Aggregation. That means I do not have to replicate something which has been published elsewhere or deposited, for instance, on the archive, the preprint server in physics. We use the existing repositories, that's the idea, or existing resources, to simply bring together all content which is available. So no need to set up, as I said in the beginning, to set up a new infrastructure. We have the infrastructure. Every institute has a library, every institute has server capacity, and we want to motivate researchers to put their research on their local repository or on their local server, but make it available open access. And then we have to find an environment to bring together all relevant research. For me, as a researcher which is interested in a very specific niche area, I have to find it, and that's the the difficult situation. Here, meanwhile, we have aggregated more than 1.5 million open access articles, gold open access articles from more than 2.3 million authors in all areas, most of them in the in STM, and yeah. Moreover, we want to exchange, enable the users to exchange ideas, exchange opinions about these articles which are there on the network, and so we have a share option, we have messaging options, we have everything you know from other networks or other platforms to collaborate. So, and that's very important. For instance, I have my own web space here, my private web space on the side where I can collaborate with my peers, my co-authors for my next publication. And for instance, if I start to draft a new manuscript or a new publication or a new poster, I can invite co-authors of my group privately and share with them yeah, my draft, ask for a new version, ask for feedback, and that's only one part of the story. Of course, there are other initiatives or platforms which are providing this special service, but we are providing everything else too. That's the idea. For instance, for communication, it's very obvious that you need a profile. We do not need Mickey Mouse, but Alexander Grossmann with a full profile, no anonymous profile. So we use here the ORCID or authentication for our users, which makes perfect sense. And so it's very clear that only peers can contribute here to the discussion. Everybody can access the platform and see what's in it, but only peers authenticated via ORCID can access a discussion or can start reviewing a paper or publication from somebody else. Finally, we want to use this also as a discussion and evaluation platform. As I said, it's very important to find new ways to manage the peer review process, which is, by the way, managed by the peers itself, by the community itself. We do not need a publishing house which is providing a special platform. We can use simply, yeah, that platform or any other tool, since we are doing all the work, yeah, ourselves anyway. We are authors of research publications, we are reviewers, so we make the quality assessment, and finally we are those who will read the papers, and we pay for it. Anyway, I think that's not a sustainable model, and everybody knows it. Also the publisher, the classical publishing industry knows it, since I have been working for 12 years there too, and at Wiley and Springer and others, and they are also very keen to find out how can they contribute to these new developments, how can they yeah, find something sustainable for themselves, but it's very obvious they cannot start to aggregate all open access papers worldwide. They have a lot of open access papers anyway, but actually, just to give you a figure, we have about 150,000 open access papers in STM, which were published last year from statistics I saw at the APE conference in Berlin in January, and I think it's a long way still to go, since the first figure was 1.8 million publications in total in STM last year, so we have to contribute a lot to make research more open, but we need also a way then to make it also accessible and available. So we see here an example where we introduced a post-publication peer review process, and we are also providing some more information about mentions in social media. And as I said, in a minute or so, we will learn more about alternative level metrics. The next speaker will tell us something about alt metrics, and we are using here that alt metric plugin for making it accessible. So we have not only the information somebody cited the work, citing in the term of the digital age in terms of social networks. Oh, there was a tweet about my recent publications. I do also know more about the person who cited that article, who mentioned that publication. So the second dimension, and we have also the third dimension. I can read what he or she said. at complete variance to my findings, Alexander Grossmann, blah, 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 that would be a bad citation. And so I can, as a reader, easily click on it and access all information, all 3 dimensions. And that's what we need in the future also to get rid of that impact factor, and also the way how the impact factor is still used for evaluation, which makes no sense at all. Here, just to give you a quick introduction into the feedback we got by users of our site. We started Science Open a year ago, and we published, meanwhile, about 100 papers and posters. I will come back in a minute on that aspect of posters. And we see here the statistics. So I expected that much less people will start providing that platform a full review for any paper they have read. And so we were very happy that more people than we expected in the beginning accessed that site and also provided or submitted here a review, a rating here in stars. So you know it from other sites, but it's simply a way to display it in a very fancy way. But finally, as we just saw on the last slide, it's the same way how peer review works. You have a full report. As a reviewer, you have to submit your criteria why that or this is good or average or poor. And so it's simply the same way, but it's an open evaluation. So everybody can also read recommendations of a reviewer. Maybe it would be nice if somebody else will develop a certain way how for an experimental approach for that specific problem. So everybody can read it now, not only the author or the editor of the journal. And so there's much more feedback created, which is accessible by much more people than in the present situation. So finally, some very recent highlights. As I said, the platform is aggregating open access content. The goal is to aggregate all open access content, gold open access content, which is currently available. And it's a nice idea to think about a collection or to combining. Now, these articles, which are of relevance for me, I'm working in a specific field in physics, let's say in quantum computing. I'm interested only in a very narrow niche of physics, quantum computing, and I can decide now that I want to go and pick these articles from the collection or from the aggregation out of the 1.5 million articles and bring them together in a collection of relevant papers, which I feel which are relevant for my community. So it's an open collection, and it's very flexible, it's dynamic, maybe it's journal 3.0 or 2.0 or whatever. There is no other way how to describe it as a collection. And here we have some examples. You can start a collection in the perspectives or from the perspective of an institution. So here the Paul Drude Institute put all articles they have published open access last year in that collection. We have also examples on the site where an editor decided to go, as I said in the beginning, in a very specific niche area of his scientific expertise to collect papers from that aspect. You have several criteria how you can set up such a collection. And which is very important. If you're starting to search again, you know it from Google, you can also save your search to make sure that you got an alert. Oh, there's a new paper from last day or so, last week, on quantum computing. And now I can save not only one search, many searches, and I got the feedback then automatically from the system. And finally, as I said a minute ago, we are also offering ways to publish any research, not only as an article, but also posters, but also negative results. Everything which is of importance to being communicated among scientists. And as I said, last week I was attending that big physics conference in Berlin, and we offered the poster publication for two divisions of that conference, and they were, as they wrote, enthusiastic about that opportunity. In particular, the younger scientists, which have had to wait then for an opportunity to publish these results they have been presenting as a poster, as a full article. They can now take the PDF with the metadata, the same metadata as for any other article, and then, they receive a DOI. The work becomes citable. It's indexed via Google Scholar, and they said, wow, that's really great, that's fantastic. Here, where can we submit that poster? And yeah, so obviously it works. And it's only an example. So I'm an experimental physicist, and that's why we are trying dynamically to develop also new ways, new concepts, and hopefully we will get also some feedback from you how to continue that effort. Finally, I want to summarize, since we were talking about future trends and perspectives of scholarly publishing, what can we summarize, or what have we learned now? We say, okay, obviously journals were a very good tool to, in the printed age, to disseminate knowledge, but in the digital age, it would be nice to have platforms or mega journals. That's one idea. No silos anymore. Moreover, we all agree that the impact factor is not a good way to evaluate research. So we need article level metrics or something else, more information. We need open data. We need also new ways to communicate research, not only articles. We need living documents, as Max Planck tried with the, or started with the living review concept. We need a living document, a versioning of research results, so to represent also the activity in that specific field of research in the digital form. Open evaluation, post-publication peer review would be one concept. We need also an acknowledgement of the peers. That's why our reports or review reports got credited by a DOI, so they are also citable. And finally, of course, we need open access, and most importantly, we have to think about the community, the peers. What do authors prefer? Do they still prefer prestigious and highly ranked journals to publish? Or do we find an alternative way how they could think in the future? And that's very interesting to discuss this specific issue with the audience and also with you. And I have no clear trend so far discovered from that, what I got as a feedback. So before I finish, I want to thank also our partners, and I thank you very much. Good. Oops.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Grossmann. Are there any questions? Be brave after the lunch.
Thank you very much for the interesting talk. How would you position Science Open in comparison to Mendeley?
That's a very good question, and I think Mendeley was starting with the concept also I just described as a workspace, a platform where you could privately share drafts or whatever with other researchers, with your peers, and that was also one reason. It's a service for researchers, and that was also, I think, the very reason why Elsevier acquired Mendeley some time ago, since also publishers have recognized that they have to provide more services to their customers, which are here the researchers, not the librarians. And I think that's a trend which is also continuing, since also other publishers, also Springer, so are very keen to find out where they can also join new initiatives to provide more services, rather than staying in the mood of a copyright owner only. Yeah.
More questions?
Thank you. Gilles Dubochet from Science Europe. I was wondering about how you use the reviews that are provided by your users. You showed us how you show them as next to the actual article, but do you use them beyond that to extract information about networks of researchers, how researchers read and use articles? Do you use reviews to help researchers find other articles that might be relevant to them?
That's a good idea. As I just said, we introduced that concept half a year ago, and the next step would be, of course, exactly would go in that direction as you described. We want to use all the data, all the information we have, also the reviews, also the way how other peers, maybe in my specific area of expertise, are looking to specific articles or commenting on articles, and we want to combine that information to give support to other users from the same field. So to give them some indication, oh, you should also read that article because some of your peers commented or reviewed that specific article. And of course we need more usage. In the very beginning it makes not so much sense. We have a lot of data aggregated, but we have to start also to collect users and usage. And if you have enough usage, you have also enough information about the traffic, the activities, the behavior of the users, and we are not going to sell it as maybe competitors to advertisement companies. We are using this information then, that's the plan for the second half of this year. We use this information then to bring more qualified information, more specific information to the user, and I think that's exactly the need. So many articles, 1.8 million articles per year in STM only, no chance for a researcher to get track of that, all these publications. So I need some help. And in the past time, in the printed age, the help was the journal A, journal B, but that's not the 21st century anymore. We have more examples, more techniques to cope with this idea. Mm-hmm.